Moxley taking over AEW? I don't know. None of us know, because that was really, really weird.
It was a bit weird on this show, wasn't he?
I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luco in DAD. Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of AEW Dynamite. If you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe, and leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode, and send in your OmegaChats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them, over $5 US. And go over to Patreon. Support us on Patreon. This stuff costs money to make, and we need your support to do it. And it's not just, you just don't give us money, you get something back in return, because the brand new episode of the brand new series of WrestleTalk Extra, charting the feud between Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe in the glory years of TNA 2006, has begun and is now live on Patreon.
We reviewed TNA Genesis 2006, which is now live over Patreon. It is a 4-hour review video that we have done. 4 hours of us talking about TNA, reminiscing about TNA, and that is the first part of 5, which is going to be looking at the first 5 Angle Joe matches, culminating in arguably, I think it is actually TNA's best performing pay-per-view they ever did, which was Lockdown 2008, which I was looking through the cards just because I'm getting myself excited about what else is going to be coming up. The difference between episodes 4 and 5 of what the company looks like is astounding, and it's only a gap of about 5 months.
Yeah.
It feels like a completely different company.
It was so much fun to do, so much more rewarding than rewatching 2014 WWE, because TNA on this card on Genesis has both a 4.5. What was Angle Joe star?
4.5 star match.
A 4.5 star match. And a -2 match.
Yeah.
-2 stars.
Yeah, it is the full breadth. The opening match, we'll talk about AEW in a second, obviously, but the opening match, I said, is peak Russo TNA, because it's Serotonin, which was Russo's version of Raven's Flock, with Kazarian, Matt Bentley, and Johnny Devine.
Well remembered.
Versus the James Gang, who have been rebranded to Voodoo Kin Mafia, VKM, because they were super mad at them redoing DX over in WWE. So Road Dogg and Billy Gunn created a new tag team name, which is a reference to Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So they can go on TV and go, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, Paul Levesque, Michael Hickenbottom, and call out DX for being lame in 2006.
But just making themselves more lame by doing it.
Yeah, but they're going to the headquarters. That's our next episode. They're going to WWE's corporate headquarters.
If you want an idea of what this looks like, we actually released the first episode of our previous series for free on WrestleTalk's main channel. So you can go over there. It's a review of the 2014 Royal Rumble, the one where CM Punk quit the company.
Yeah,
it's loads of stuff there.
It's not as much fun as the Voodoo Kin Mafia calling out 2006 DX, though.
But we do crap on Randy Orton versus John Cena.
It's a bad match.
Oh, Jesus. Right, so yeah, patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Please go support us over there and get yourselves WrestleTalk Extra. This episode of Dynamite opened with just, hey, we're here in Champaign, Illinois, where Tony Khan's from?
Question mark? I have no idea.
And Excalibur's running down the card. Here's what we got for you tonight. And then, wait, let's interrupt this, because Jon Moxley's walking through the crowd.
Yeah, to his New Japan music.
So Moxley walks through the crowd. He doesn't look as pissed off Moxley as before. He's just kind of strolling.
Yeah, they were putting this over on commentary, being like, this doesn't feel like the usual Jon Moxley. We haven't seen him in a couple of months. We haven't seen him since Forbidden Door, but this does not feel like the Jon Moxley we saw 2 months ago. And Tony Schiavone's like, I'm going to go down the ring and just find out what he wants. So I thought they actually presented this pretty cool. Tony Schiavone gets up and he goes down to the ring to interview Moxley. And Tony Schiavone literally goes, you all right, mate?
You want to talk?
You want to talk about something?
And Moxley says, well, I haven't done much talking in the last 2 months, but I've done a lot of thinking. He sounded different as well. When he said, I haven't done much talking in the last 2 months, it sounded like he was getting used to his own mouth.
Yeah.
A title of your sex tape. Because he hasn't spoken for 2 months.
Yeah.
And as he was talking here.
It's like me and you doing the All-In review on Monday.
And he's been doing a lot of thinking, and he called out Darby Allin. Darby Allin is kind of the number one contender.
He's one of the number one.
He's one of the many, because he'll be having a title shot at Arthur Ashe at the Grand Slam show next month. And then it was very short and not so sweet. Then he tells Tony Schiavone, this is not your company anymore. And then he walks off.
So he says, like, Darby Allin, I know you're not here this week, but when you are, I won't be hard to find. And he goes to walk away. And Tony Schiavone's like, well, Jon Moxley, everyone. And Moxley comes back to him to grab the microphone. It's like, just so you know, this is not your company anymore. And then he leaves. And they were like, I don't know what that means. Like, what is Moxley talking about? Like, and it felt like Excalibur and Taz. I thought they sold this quite well, of like trying to get their notes together to try and get the show back on track.
And later on, Moxley's backstage and a camera's chasing him. And it's not like a Marvez or someone like that. It's just the voice of the camera guy, I think.
Yeah, it's the guy who's holding the camera.
Guy who's holding the camera going, Mox, tell us what's going on. And Moxley turns around. He says something about pearls before swine. And then Marina Shafir joins him and beats up like three just production hands, and another one runs towards him and goes, actually, no, I'm cool, and runs off the other way, which got a good chuckle. And then they left. So what things we know, Jon Moxley and Marina Shafir are a faction in some way. What does that mean for the Blackpool Combat Club?
Mm-hmm. Which we don't know, because obviously they've now got the Blackpool Compact Club.
That's one of the versions.
With Pac as the Trios champions. And Danielson's off as the World Heavyweight Champion. So yeah, what does this mean? Like, he never made any reference to the Combat Club. He didn't have any of the Combat Club gear on. So I think this is a new... I guess he's splitting away from the faction. There are a few people who pointed out that William Regal had been sort of setting this up 2 years ago, that there was he was always going to try and destroy the group from the inside. So maybe they're now going to start paying off on that one thing that they once said on an episode that one time.
That's very Tony Khan.
All those years ago.
While not paying off on several other bigger things that have been really urgent.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one thing that we know. The other thing is that Moxley will be entering a feud with Darby Allin when he's back.
Or does he just destroy Darby Allin to get the Arthur Ashe shot?
Which means he'll be going up against his former Blackpool Combat Club friend, Danielson. That's a big-time match. And then the other one is this overarching, I guess, nefarious plot of Moxley's, or whoever's pulling the strings behind Moxley, perhaps. And that is, who owns the company? Or who is in control of the company? As always... Here comes the money.
Yeah, I went onto the old Twitter machine just to see what people thought of this angle. And there are a lot of people like, I wonder if this is how they're going to bring Shane McMahon into the company. I don't know. But this was kind of presented to be sort of like an NWO, we're taking over. This is not part of the Sheet rundown. He's coming of his own accord. I don't know why you played his entrance music then, but like he came of his own accord. That's wrestling.
Yeah.
And, attacking people backstage. Kind of meant to give it sort of like an outsider's feel to it. So if a new owner is coming in, or, a new leader to it, be it that a Shane McMahon or whoever, that would very much add up. My thinking is, and it kind of frustrates me that this story has not been told better, because I think this could have been quite a cool thing, is if he's doing this because of what the Elite are doing... And this is not your company anymore because the Elite have kind of taken over from it. If you'd have told that story better, you could have then had the uneasy alliance of the Elite trying to get back in with Tony Khan, being like, we need your help to stop this invading force. Kind of like where during the invasion, when ECW invaded and Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon had to put aside their differences for one show so they could take on ECW in a 12-man tag. And then it turned out it was they were all in it all along. You could have told a really cool story with that. I don't think it's been done well enough that the Young Bucks coming back in with Tony Khan would feel like a big deal. I mean, it certainly is a big deal.
But they've been coexisting for months without issue anyway. Like that whole storyline's definitely gone off the boil. I mean, the more compelling story to me is Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club. Again, there's a story there, but it's kind of happened via mistake. Because really, if you had a month of, well, we don't know where Moxley is, so Pac's going to challenge for the trios titles with Claudio and Wheeler, and then Moxley's like, I feel like I've been replaced, guys. He could have picked up the phone. But that's not a story either. So I've got to be honest. I didn't love this. I just found it too confusing, and I didn't find it like the good sort of mysterious where I'm like, oh, I want to find out what's happening next, like a murder mystery thing. Even, and I'm not saying it's the same, but even the stuff where who ran over Roman Reigns, I wanted to know what would happen next week. As stupid as it got. Yeah. Give me a fake Eric Rowan. All that sort of stuff.
I think I'm more into this than you are by the sounds of things. I'm not like super into it. I'm not like frothing at the mouth to find out. But at the end of the episode, certainly after the Marina Shafir reveal, and definitely at the start of it, my thought was like, I am curious to see what this is, because I was wondering if you were going to do something Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite related based off the finish of Claudio versus Okada that they did at the Cardiff show. So I was wondering if they were going to go down that direction. I think this is probably likely paying off the original plan for Moxley, which was he was supposed to go heel way back when, but then he went into rehab instead, and when he came back, it's like, well, we can't really turn him heel now. He's too beloved. But enough time has passed from that you could then pick up the thread that you were supposed to have done before he did take himself into rehab. So I'm curious on this. I'm actually really quite excited to see what the next phase of this is, if only because I'm very curious. As I said, I'm not frothing at the mouth. I'm not like, oh, gotta tune in. But I do think that you need to have these sorts of storylines on your TV show, because you go like, well, I better tune in next week to see what the next chapter of this is. The thing that I found most not puzzling or perplexing, because I don't really know where I feel about this, is the addition of Marina Shafir. Because they did the big, like, Marina Shafir, like, you know, she was shot from the back, so you couldn't really know.
I thought it was Mickie James for a moment, the way her hair was.
I didn't know who it was. And I was like, oh, what, is this a debut? Is this a big return or something? And I suppose technically it is a return if you don't watch Ring of Honor, which, let's be honest, no one outside of SP3 and KNs will do. So, like, I was like, is it going to be a big return or anything? And when it was Marina Shafir, I did not go like, wow, Marina Shafir. Nor did I go, Marina Shafir. I went, oh, Marina Shafir.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Oh, Marina Shafir. So I think that's where I'm at with this whole storyline, is I'm like, okay, yeah, you tell me about this. I'm not like, whoa, tell me. And I'm like, don't tell me. But I am, tell me.
Marina Shafir apparently has always been in Jon Moxley's like radar. He's a big fan of her work. Let's see what we have on the Omega chat.
Do apologize.
We've got a missed one just very quickly. Ricardo from Spain says, thanks Dan for everything. Two things: New Day story, tacit acknowledgement that Big E will not fight again, move to commentary with Pat's absence. Well, they've announced the commentators now, so that's not happening. And time to move Jey Uso to SmackDown. Feels more of a flippy boy US title player than a meaty IC title player plus Bloodline story.
Yeah, well, I think Jey will eventually move over to SmackDown once he gets involved back into this Bloodline thing.
But the Bloodline story is also a reason to keep him apart from there for now. Over to the AEW stuff, though. Bailey Reichart says, I think this is how they bring Shane McMahon in. He's going to be the on-screen authority figure. Also, Swerve is gold on the mic. Swerve and Page can do it forever.
I love that.
Death Grinder. Moxley finally got his vacation, and he clearly hated it. Yeah, he's finally gone for 2 months.
Yeah, he goes home, watches wrestling, goes like, is this what wrestling is? Oh, no, I'm gonna start my own. I wonder if this is Death Jitsu. And this is going to be his new group. It's going to be like, it's like a Fight Club style MMA thing.
Oh, and who also had an idea for a Fight Club style MMA thing?
And is very skilled in MMA fighting.
AEW Underground with Jon Moxley and Shane McMahon. Yeah. Nick Smith says, I thought that was Ronda Rousey with Mox. And my immediate thought was, please no. But hey, that's a good point, actually. Marina Shafir, one of the 4 horsewomen with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, there's Jessamine Duke and Baszler.
Yeah, of course, Baszler. Ronda Rousey isn't doing anything right now.
No.
I mean, she's also not the most popular person.
No. But she's never going to be, though, is she, I suppose?
Nick continues.
It hasn't stopped them using Saraya on TV, though.
That's a good point. Nick continues. Perry for Danielson's first feud was an odd choice, but if they're doing like a run of all the guys who have beaten him, MJF, Hangman, Garcia, Starks, Eddie, I'm in.
Yeah, we'll get onto the Perry stuff a bit later on, because I've got some thoughts on that you'll be pleased to know. I should also add as well with this Moxley thing. It's only day one of the story.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's hard for us to pass a lot of judgment on it when we've had one angle.
I've got no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just saying on this first one, I'm not super intrigued by it. But yeah, I am curious to see what happens next. Mike says they've been selling the severity of Ospreay's Tiger Driver for months now, and MJF just comes back 3 days later with some tape on his neck. But Garcia was out for nearly 2 months with MJF's pile driver. Let's have some consistency here, people.
That is the consistency. I keep saying this. It was the fear that it could paralyze someone, because it had been retired for doing, for really, really hurting people. It was the fear of possibly hurting someone and giving them untold repercussions. MJF got away scot-free. He was unscathed in all of this, but he sold it like $1 million, actually at All In. And him coming out with the tape on, I thought was a really, really nice touch.
I thought MJF sold it really well.
Yeah.
Here. It wasn't just the tape. He did not move. Usually MJF would get the better of a Garcia in that situation.
Yeah.
But Garcia was manhandling him, because if you watch it back, the way Max moves his body is like someone with a neck issue.
Exactly.
When you've got a crick in your neck, it's not just the neck that hurts. Your whole upper body becomes quite robotic in its movement. And that's how I feel Max was moving around the ring, which is why Garcia was able to get 3 separate pile driver attempts on him.
Yeah, and also now puts over Garcia of someone who just took the Tiger Driver and is also willing to pile drive him and break his neck, which is a lovely contrast to the Ospreay feud, which was he was too afraid to do the move in case he did hurt Max. Garcia's like, no, I'm going to do this because I want to hurt you. So there's a lovely little bit of mirroring there. Plus, we'll see how MJF is actually in the ring in selling the damage that the move did.
Bald says, since we know that WrestleTalk is in the ear of AEW, can we do a poll? I'm just hoping this reaches the right people, and I'm also genuinely curious what the SWAF Nation thinks. Should Hook retire the FTW Championship, a joke title, no later than All Out? Yeah or nay? We could get a poll going.
We can get a poll going.
Should the FTW title retire at All Out?
I think that there will be an overwhelming swing one way.
Which way?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone outside of Taz that's particularly into this. And Tony Khan, because he's a mark for 90s wrestling.
And finally for this portion, Mariah May Simp asks, yo, where the heck are Eddie Kingston and Tatum Paxley? Well, Eddie Kingston horribly broke his leg, I think it was, in a February New Japan show with Gabe Kidd. Tatum Paxley is also injured?
Yeah?
I don't know, actually. Or maybe there's just no plans for it at the moment.
Yeah. She's in NXT, Tatum Paxley? Or am I thinking of someone else?
I can't remember.
Who am I thinking of? But yeah, I mean, Eddie Kingston was on Collision 2 weeks ago, putting over the Danielson thing.
I see the poll is up.
Yes.
As well. Let's get into the rest of this episode. Please keep sending in your Omega chats to WrestleTalk.com/support. And remember, Patreon.com/WrestleTalk is where you can get 4 more hours of this inane wrestling ramble chat. After that opening segment, we got a conglomeration promo with Mark Briscoe doing his usual stuff. And then we got Hangman Page versus Ishii.
Also within that, Willow Nightingale announced the stipulation for her match with Chris Statlander at All Out.
Oh, I totally missed that. What was it?
A street fight.
Ah, okay. Hangman Page and Ishii, though, were next. And yeah, they just stiffed each other.
Oof, this was
stiff.
This was stiff as a dick at times. Crikey, these two just beat the snot out of each other. And surprisingly, a first-time match, considering that the pair of them spent quite a bit of time in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but never crossed paths. But my first note here is they exchanged forearms for over a minute, so I'm sure there will be some people pretending to be upset about this on Twitter.
They went through 2 commercial breaks. Ishii took a DDT on the apron and stayed there for about 4 seconds on the top of his head.
I felt like 10. It was just like lawn darted into it. It was like that Shawn Michaels thing with Sid, where it's just up on his head for ages.
I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to Pete, and he was like, it looks like there's a little face in the back of Ishii's head. The fold on the back of his head looks like a smile.
Yeah. They made a joke of commentary. It's like, well, if he didn't have a neck before, he definitely hasn't got one now.
But Anger won in the end with Hangman Page doing a Deadeye into a buckshot lariat to win. Ishii had just hit a kind of Deadeye.
Yeah, crikey, didn't he just?
And he just dropped Hangman on his shoulder.
Horrible landing for Hangman Page. It was gruesome. Like, the commentary, I thought, sold it so well. It was just like, I don't know how he's actually getting up after that, because that was a ugly landing.
Well, the Deadeye, you kind of sit down on your knees, don't you?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot more height. But Ishii is not only smaller, I'm pretty sure he just dropped down to his butt.
I felt like he ran.
Yeah.
Like ran into it and then dropped down. Like, it was awful. Then Deadeye, and then Hangman hit one that was so safe. It was almost like, this is how you do it, mate.
Yeah. But Ishii doesn't know. Like, he's not got the neck to protect.
Of course. There was a really good line on commentary in this where they were talking about how Hangman Page distracts himself in the ring a lot because he keeps seeing children in the crowd.
Oh, not like dead children.
No. Every time he sees, they tell the story of, like, every time he sees a child in the crowd, he thinks about what Swerve did to his family, and that's what often distracts him in matches. When he sort of, like, you see get that little glazed look over his eye. Excalibur was like, it's because he's seen another kid in the crowd. I thought it was a nice touch.
Yeah, that's good.
And very much set up the segment that came after this. Because much like All In, when Hangman Page came out for the Casino Gauntlet that I was having so much fun in, and my only reaction was, oh no, Hangman's here. I had this when Swerve came out, because Swerve's music hit, and I was like, oh no, Swerve's here now, and he's going to be really mad. And as it turns out, like, they were both, like, pissed off, but this was, like, I've got some things to get off my chest against both of them. I thought this segment was awesome.
It was very good, and it's been coming for quite some time as well. I guess the last time they really interacted was the three-way, wasn't it?
Yes, because that's when Hangman went off. They were in Blood and Guts together.
Oh, yeah, of course. But they only got a little bit of a fight, and then I think Hangman... It was mostly the Okada stuff.
Yeah, because Hangman they have their little square off, and then they weren't there for the finish of it.
But they haven't been, like, properly going at each other until now. So I think they've done a great job keeping them apart. A lot of people wanted this for the All-In main event. But, yeah, Swerve said, look, that Double or Nothing match, when I was annoyed when you tapped out to stop me getting the championship when Samoa Joe beat you. And I feel sorry for you. Because on that moment, I was like, okay, I'm not going to focus on Hangman Page anymore. I'm going to focus on winning the world title. And win the world title he did. Whereas Hangman Page just kept focusing on Swerve. And Swerve told a story. Well, I'm pretty sure it was after that Double or Nothing. He drove to Hangman's house. And he saw Hangman Page taking his pregnant wife down the stairs to get in the cab to go to the hospital. And that's when he sort of realised all of this stuff. Like, that's the man Hangman Page should be.
Yeah, just go home and leave this to the professionals. And that is why Hangman was off for so much. Like, it had been reported he was taking some time off. Yeah, he was on paternity leave, which no one really knew. This was like them outing it on television. And I love that it was Swerve. Like, Hangman didn't announce this on TV or on social media or anything. Swerve is just like, I want you to know that I know this. And I'm telling everyone that I know. And I was there when I saw you taking her to the hospital. And I really like that little bit of detail of just like, yeah, I realize that I'm born to be a world champion. You're just a family man. And you should just go home and do that, because I think that's what you're best at. Leave this to us.
Which is a real sort of babyface thing for Hangman.
Yeah.
That's not typically a babyface trait. And Hangman snaps. He's like, you broke into my home. Which is fair. And every time we've wrestled, you've needed someone else to beat me. You know, it was usually Prince Nana or Brian Cage or Gates of Agony back when they were all together. Hangman is better than Swerve. And that's when Swerve says, well, let's have a cage match at All Out.
Yeah. A very good stipulation. I thought they might have done lights
unsanctioned,
out. Yeah, like a lights out unsanctioned match. But Steel Cage is really good. Like, they've got a very good track record of Steel Cage matches in AEW. And I think as a stipulation for Swerve, it's good because this is for him to prove, I don't need any outside interference to beat you. So before, we've had Christian's whole gimmick being around your dad is whatever here. I guess Swerve's one is now you should go home and be a dad for your kids. Yeah. It's like that's what he did with Danielson. Just like I like that. It's just like, I'm the best that this company has to offer. And I think that people like me should be the people who are pushing this company forward, not men like you who are distracted by children and family. Go do that elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like, go home and do that and leave this to actual champions.
So very good. I feel Swerve is definitely taking the heel side, although he's getting babyface reactions, and Hangman is getting more of the face side, but getting heel reactions. Hangman didn't do anything afterwards. He didn't brawl with him like he has been before. He just walked off.
That is the reaction of a Hangman Page who has heard something that he knows is true but does not want to believe that it's true.
Yeah, I really, really like this. Very well done.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Jamie Hayter pretty much squashed Harley Cameron in her return match, all while staring at Saraya at ringside.
Yeah, this is one of those unfortunate things of, like, they're trying to put this over as, like, oh, she's getting her revenge on the Outcasts because they injured her 15 months ago. But you look at it, it's like, well, there's only one member of that Outcast. And they're on commentary be like, of course, Toni Storm is not in that group anymore. But she's different now.
Yeah.
And, well, we haven't heard from her since All In because I think she's taken time off now. And, Ruby Soho is... she's pregnant at the moment, so she's not in the group. But, I'm sure Jamie Hayter looks at Harley Cameron and is like, you're the same. You're one of them.
But yeah, Hayter looked good.
Yeah, that's all it needs to be.
Yeah. Renee is then talking to the Learning Tree and Roderick Strong backstage. Big Bill speaks on being super over, but I don't think he was in the match, unfortunately.
Well, that's because I said this on the All In review, that I think a lot of people online were going to confuse him being over at Cardiff and All In for being Big Bill is now just going to be over all over the place. Whereas the truth of the matter is that he was over in Cardiff because the crowd got bored and just made their own fun. And then that crowd was also there for All In and continued that fun because that's what we do as British wrestling fans. But it was not going to translate to American audiences.
I did think this was a very poor crowd.
Yeah. I mean, not great.
So it was hard for anyone to get reactions, really. But yeah, I agree. I don't think this is going to cross over in the way they would like it to. Jericho also said he's proud of Hook. He learned from him, and that's why he won the FTW title. And then Roddy screamed, "Chris!" But I had to play it back a bunch of times because it just sounded like he went, "Rah!"
Yeah, he went, "Chris!"
Yeah.
Jericho.
And he asked Jericho for help to get Kyle O'Reilly away from Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
So I expect that to be a bit of a storyline over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The Learning Tree, teaching Roddy.
Oh, no, they're very much... Based on what happens in the match, they are going their separate ways. The Learning Tree are going into a...
Oh, that Learning Tree are getting away from Hook.
Yeah, they're going to go into a feud with the conglomeration so we can do more Jericho Cassidy stuff.
That's cute. Yeah.
And then we'll spin off into the Kingdom versus Shibata and Joe when they get back.
MJF came out next, and rather than all the colourful clothes of his America gimmick, he was now in a grey suit, black shirt, black Burberry scarf. And you can see the tape over his neck, which we discussed earlier, selling that Tiger Driver.
He said he's lost part of his spine because of the move.
He said he's got 2 herniated discs. Now, because I was researching the Britt Baker stuff for the news this morning, Britt Baker came back from 2 herniated discs.
Oh, is that what you think it's?
I don't know. I just decided, that's the same, the exact same thing.
He also apparently, it's a shoot that his ring got nicked. The Dynamite ring got nicked. I thought he was using it in the match, but because we were quite far out, but it would turn out it was brass knucks that he was using. But yeah, it turns out the rings got nicked.
Or was it?
Well,
because later on, Daniel Garcia said, I stole the ring to pawn it to fly to London.
But I wonder if that is now just, we've added this in as a bit of kayfabe reasoning.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're just being worked and it was never nicked, and Max planted that seed on Sunday on Twitter so we could pay it off on Wednesday on Dynamite.
Yeah.
Could be.
MJF also renounced his American citizenship because they didn't support him enough for his all-in title defense. And he's, apart from, of course, Plainview, Long Island, the most magical place on earth. And then he says that Will cheated. True?
Well, yeah, because Daniel Garcia
interfered
on his behalf. He said, without me, this company is a circus. And speaking of circus acts, Will Ospreay.
Daniel Garcia jumps him after MJF was mouthing off about Garcia. I thought he looked a lot like Jon Moxley here.
Why?
Because he had He's got a much more shaved head.
Mm-hmm.
He had the black trousers on, no top, and then the sort of thin gold necklace.
I didn't see Moxley in this whatsoever. Particularly as well because Moxley came out in green. Moxley came dressed as Kim Possible earlier in the show because he had green combats on and a black top.
Well, this is old Moxley.
Even so, you just see all bald men. I used to look at me and Laurie and you just can't tell us apart.
Moxley. Garcia then goes to properly attack MJF. MJF doesn't fight back because he is selling that neck injury. He's going to do a pile driver in the ring. But then you think for a moment, Garcia is worried that he might really injure MJF. He stops, but then he sees the turnbuckle. I'm going to do it from the second turnbuckle instead.
Do it really hard this time.
I'm going to kill him. And he goes to do it. Well, it was pretty awesome, but security stopped him. He tried a second time, but security ran down again with Christopher Daniels. And then this is when he gets on the mic. He talks about pawning the ring and that it's going to be MJF versus Garcia at all out. He won't be fulfilled until he breaks Max's neck. And then he lobbed the microphone up the ramp. And it hit MJF on the shoulder.
Ruining your life is all I think about. Ruining your life is my fetish.
I feel like MJF loses because they've set it up quite nicely. This is Garcia's big revenge. He loses in quite a devastating fashion. I'm thinking Wardlow, not Wardlow lengths, but Garcia wins very strong. MJF sells the neck injury. And then maybe Max has gone for a bit.
I feel like we've only just got him back.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, but, you can't miss someone unless they go away.
So, yeah, Garcia.
I thought this was cool. I really like this. And
Do you think he's going to win it all out?
I don't know. I'll see what the go-home angle is next week. My gut instinct says that MJF gets the win, but I'm quite happy to be proven wrong on that one. So we'll certainly see. But I thought it was really good. What I thought was a very good strength of this show compared to last year is they did a lot more to set up a pay-per-view that's happening in 2 weeks.
Yes.
We now know at least half the card for All Out, which I think is a good move. Whereas it felt like last year we were scrambling in the lead up to All In, and then the one show they had in between All In and All Out felt like even more of a scramble just to make more matches.
We got a Ricochet video package on his debut and then a little clip of him talking backstage afterwards where he said, "Let's see where this journey takes us." Like an X Factor contestant.
He finally gets to be the Ricochet he's wanted to be for years. Take that, Paul.
And then the show for me had a rough 45 minutes.
I'd say so.
We got the 8-man tag of Hook and the Conglomeration.
I enjoyed this match.
Well, the finish was rubbish.
I don't know. I didn't mind the finish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, let me say what it was. Hook and the Conglomeration versus the Learning Tree and Roderick Strong. And yeah, it's 8-man firm. This is where Big Bill gets the hot tag, but the crowd weren't really, they're just not a good crowd all night. Hook was more over. He got a big T-bone suplex on Bill. Jericho hypes everyone up for a dive outside, but he stops and he does the wave. And the finish...
He fell over. Of everyone in this match, Jericho was the guy that fell over. When he showed up on screen, there wasn't boos this time. It was people excited to see him and even joined in with the Hi Guys catchphrase. And you could all see them doing the wave in the background when he did that spot when he stopped. Someone actually contacted me about the... a friend of mine reached out to me about the Learning Tree. Their partner is blind, and he's just starting to get into wrestling because she's always been into wrestling. He's starting to get into wrestling, and so she sometimes has to fill in the blanks of what expressions people are doing, and this, that, and the other, and this is okay, so he's doing this. If commentary's not covering up enough, she's okay, well, this is what's happening. The Learning Tree is the only one where he doesn't need any guidance.
Oh, interesting.
He knows exactly what Chris Jericho is doing and exactly what the sort of look Chris Jericho has on his face while he's doing it. So credit to him.
That's a pro.
That is a pro. That is someone who's communicating his character to someone who cannot see.
Well, it's not a subtle gimmick.
It's about as subtle as wrestling.
The finish was Hook making Roderick Strong he tapped with the red rum, but Roddy's foot was clearly on the ropes.
It was under the ropes, yes.
Yeah, but it was touching the ropes.
Yeah. And the referee didn't see it.
Yeah.
Is this the first time you've seen this finish?
Well, I didn't see the need for it.
Well, because he had his foot under the ropes and he tapped out knowing that he was not going to get, he wasn't going to lose the match because his foot's under the ropes. It's out of bounds.
I thought it made the referee look pretty bad because Aubrey was standing right there and, it didn't take much peripheral vision to see the foot on the ropes.
No, but you could say that about the finish to King and Queen of the Ring.
Yes,
you
can.
And unfortunately,
I did.
That was funny. But it is probably as egregious, only this one is done by design as opposed to being an accident. It's just that sometimes referees get things wrong. And now you can spin these characters off into different storylines. So you can do Hook and Strong over the FTW Championship. I'll be honest, I thought we weren't going to be doing that title anymore. And I thought, maybe this can be the final moment of it. And we can spin the conglomeration off with the learning tree because Jericho's whole promo earlier was actually being like, oh, Orange Cassidy, you still owe me for that jacket you ruined back in 2021. So now I suppose the reason why I like this finish is because this definitely separated Hook away from Chris Jericho. This finish said, we are done now, and he has gone from the vortex, and he's now feuding with this guy over here, and Jericho's going off this way to feud with these people over here, which will end March next year.
It wasn't the stakes, though. The stakes for that FTW All-In title match was if you lose, you get stuck in the vortex.
Yeah, but he then beat him again here.
Oh, wait, I'm doing it the wrong way around. If you win, you're free of the Jericho vortex.
No, it was if you lose, you're free of the Jericho vortex.
So Taven and Bennett then jumped Hook afterwards and Strong posed with the FTW belt. So that is most likely maybe even an all-out direction. Because we're on the FTW title, shall we see the result of the poll?
I think you'll be unsurprised to learn, yes, 84%.
Oh! What 16% of people want that belt to stick around?
People who were there in the 90s.
After this, we got Mercedes Moné having a title party backstage. And there's like some extras in the background. There's some balloons.
Yeah.
I'm like, before anyone said anything, I was like, this feels like SmackDown in 2019.
It looked so naff. It looked so rubbish.
Yeah. And Private Party, the Private Party and Okada and Mercedes I actually thought were really good and showed much more character than if this was done in old WWE. Private Party tried to hit on Mercedes and then Okada walks in and Mercedes asks him, what's bye bitch in Japanese? She says it and then Okada does the CEO dance.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I could not get over how terrible everything looked. There was no music.
What? No.
There was no. I could see.
What, do you have music at your parties, you weirdo?
I could see extras in the background, just like mouthing nothing.
This was every WWE backstage segment for a Thanksgiving episode.
Oh yeah, that's totally what it is. Like I expected Titus Worldwide to just pop up in the background.
Yeah, to go like whoa whenever they do the big spot or anything. It looked so lame, and I don't think it was by design to look lame. Like I don't think this was where they were like, yeah, let's make this look crap on purpose, as we can play up the heelish nature of it. I think this was just bad production design.
Oh yes, okay, I agree. Because one of the things was Mercedes came in and she wanted to bring Jennifer Pepperman with her, who is a former WWE writer, whose bread and butter were those SmackDown 2019 women's segments.
Yeah.
So I've just got this, feels like a little slice of an era of WWE I don't want anymore.
Yeah, this was no good. My bigger criticism of it would be, considering the week there was just the one match, because we got this and then the Mariah May segment next. Neither of those set up new challenges. And I think that is what I wanted from this episode, was to let me know, okay, here's the next contender for these titles. These are the next storylines we're setting up for these titles. We did, the Jamie Hayter thing earlier. We did the Tony Storm thing following All In. But now we've got our two world champions here. We got our world champion and our TBS champion. I don't know who their next challengers are. And we're 2 weeks out from a pay-per-view where presumably they will defend those belts. One of them should have had and this is the direction we're going, as opposed to both of them just being, we're doing segments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I hadn't even thought about that. I was more just stunned by how crap it was. Okada and Mercedes, do you think they'd make a fun on-screen couple?
Well, it's been fun so far. I agree. It's the bit I've laughed the most at with Okada is when what was it? He
got like bashful backstage.
Bashful.
You mean that bit? Can you introduce me to?
Yeah.
Can you ask her to do the dance? I think is what he said.
And then he was sweating profusely.
Yeah. So after that, we had the Mariah May title celebration. So 2 women's title celebrations, back-to-back segments.
Yeah, that is that's a bad layout.
Wouldn't have done that.
Nope.
But Mariah May's one was a fake out. She comes out, Tony Schiavone's on the stage. He gets a bit hot and bothered, doesn't he?
He's like Okada with Mercedes. Well, it's because Mariah May came out in a robe. This is playing off the interview she did, I think, with Fightful in the lead up to All In, where she said, when I win, I am going to pose nude with the title belts. So this was playing off of that. That only works if you know that interview.
Yeah.
Because I don't think she set it up particularly within the segment.
I've never heard that.
I don't think this was a very good segment. And I don't think it helped that the crowd weren't really behind it or really into it, which says a lot of the things they were doing all night long. But I don't think this got over at all. And it actually reminded me a lot of that first promo she had after the hot heel turn, where the crowd kind of died of death when she was talking. And it got so much better when she was just kept to the backstage stuff. This did not work for me.
She came out in a sort of robe, said Champagne, which is the place they were, should be renamed Flat Piss Water Beer. And which are all good lines.
Foster's.
And said there were a lot of ugly women in the crowd. And then she removed her robe and she has a sort of semi-revealing sexy outfit underneath and the women's title.
Yeah, it's like, so the reveal of it was she was wearing clothes.
Yeah.
Cool, I guess.
But I thought she was not going to do that.
Yeah, well, right? Because she said, I'm not going to do the title celebration here.
And it wasn't like a big celebration, but it was, I don't know.
Yeah, this was no good.
But the best production thing was still to come. Because after that, we get a clip from All In after the tag match. And the grizzled young vets catch up with the Young Bucks backstage and they go back and forth. We're coming for your tag titles.
Got better towards the end.
And then James Drake says, and when we do, you're gonna grit your teeth.
Not good.
Do you want to do the Liverpudlian grit your teeth?
What if I mean, I'm probably better at doing Zach Gibson because he's got a very thick Scouse accent. Hey, you Young Bucks, we've seen what you've been doing with those tag titles. And I want you to know that when we get the shot, we're going to be winning them and we're going to take over this tag division. And when you see the grizzled young veterans, you're going to grit your teeth.
Now, it comes back to earlier today, and they both there. They cut a very similar promo, which sounds exactly the same. Well, it ends 20 seconds later with...
And when you see the grizzled young veterans, you will grit your teeth. Now, if I was being charitable... I would say that they put these two segments back to back to get over the catchphrase. I think the likelihood is they just forgot what was in the version that they did after All In and then just accidentally did more or less the same for this pre-tape.
I feel poor James Drake did just feel like a Woody toy where he's only got select catchphrases.
Pull the drawstring. This is not on them.
No.
This is, again... bad layout, sort of like the right hand not talking to the right hand. This all you needed actually was, and I suppose if you hadn't have had this backstage segment, there would have been someone online being like, oh, so you debut them all in, then don't feature them on TV. So you did feature them on TV.
McGuinness.
Tick, I suppose. But yeah, doing these two things back to back. You could have just had the segment with them and the Bucks at All In, post All In, and then just come up with the match graphic, and they're having their match on Rampage against the Outrunners.
Yeah. We got a recap of Takeshita and the G1. Nice to get a sort of visual update on where he's been. He's also in a Rampage match. I haven't written it down, but it's a 4-way with the Beast Muertos, Commander, and someone else. But I did see that.
Oh, Takeshita. Oh, sorry, you said Takeshita, right?
Takeshita, yeah. There's one more in a 4-way. And I saw that and I was like, oh, I might watch Rampage.
From what I've heard, it over delivers.
I bet it does. Takeshi's such a brilliant base for all those luchadors. Speaking of, after that we got Ricochet versus Kyle Fletcher. So Ricochet's debut Dynamite match after his Casino Gauntlet debut in the company, where he was, no offense here, but he was like the third coolest thing in that match for me. He had a match.
Yeah, this was not the coming out party that I feel like it needed to be. So you know when Will debuts?
Yeah.
And he had the match with Kyle Fletcher, and everyone at the end of it was like, whoa, like what an incredible match. I think that's kind of what you needed. That's why you put him versus Kyle Fletcher, because Kyle Fletcher's like so good at doing this and being that base. But this match was like, it was good. You know, it's very good, you could argue. But I think that if you are the guy that's just left WWE and your whole thing is that I've not been allowed to be Ricochet for 5 years because I've been sort of trapped within WWE, and you go there and you have a match that is good, I don't think that is the best advert.
I just don't see what was massively different from the WWE performances.
I agree.
But, he changed his finisher. It's not the 450 splash. It's the...
It was in the 630, wasn't it?
Sorry, the 630. Undersold it there. It was the Vertigo, which is what he used to use on the Indies.
Yeah. It was Leo Rush as the fourth guy.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. But yeah, I was really prepped to get on board with Ricochet.
Me too.
And apart from a springboard off the barricade sort of roll through, and then he just did suck it at the camera, that was it.
The angle that came afterwards, I think, did a lot more for Ricochet in AEW than this match did. But this was not the big hot debut that I think most people were A, expecting it to be, and B, what I think it should have been. Yeah,
so that angle, though, was really, really good.
Really good.
Ricochet wins the match with the Vertigo, and then Ospreay's music hits. And I'm just bowled upright in my seat.
And that's the reaction you're after, right? Because the whole thing has always been Ricochet and Ospreay. They were the ones, like, the original viral Twitter moments of like indie wrestling and stuff. And I know Dan Layton's been like, delay it. Don't rush to it. Don't just do it now. I think just do it now, like, or at least let the intentions be known. Yeah, we're gonna do Will and Rick,
and that's what they did do. And Ospreay laid out the belt on the stage, and he's just about to get the mic and talk to Ricochet when Pac, from out of nowhere, hits this poison rana on Will on the stage.
Oh, it's brutal.
It looked like it killed him, and Pac grabs the mic instead and says, "Don't forget about the bastard. I'm in the match next week at All Out. Ricochet, get to the buck of the line."
Where you belong.
Just awesome. Pac's intensity here. Will Ospreay being Will Ospreay. And then Ricochet, when he ran up and he sort of half chased off Pac and checked on Will afterwards. I wasn't into Ricochet that much during the Kyle Fletcher match. I was far more into Kyle Fletcher. But some magic happened when Pac and Ospreay got around Ricochet, and I was infinitely more interested in him.
Yeah.
And I could happily have a little 3-way month feud, not for All Out, because I think that should be Pac's singles match.
Which they've announced, yeah.
But following that, keep Pac in that picture and have Ricochet in it as well.
I'd like to keep Fletcher in that picture as well, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's time we start to elevate this Fletcher lad, because he is really, really good. And I think we're kind of maybe reaching the peak of this Don Callis storyline. And when I say peak, I'm not saying it's like it's not Mount Everest peaks, but it's probably like this is probably the hottest it will get as a partnership in terms of wanting to see him split away from the Don Callis family.
I think you mean a valley. This is the lowest point.
Yeah. Maybe
we might as well go our separate ways.
Maybe that's where I'm at. Yeah, like let's just get him. I wonder if they're just waiting for Mark Davis to come back before they do this. But I think I'd like to see Fletcher still involved with this.
Then we got the Moxley segment backstage with Marina Shafir, and the final segment was Bryan Danielson to address his future. He comes out and he's getting huge yes chants from the crowd. This previously silent crowd were alive for Bryan Danielson. He said Birdie told him Sunday was the best day in her life, but that could have been the Peppa Pig bus they went on earlier.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to cast stones, but that makes him sound like a terrible father.
Peppa Pig.
Yeah. Letting a child watch Peppa Pig, I think is irresponsible.
Oh, so you think Bryan Danielson, the man who bled and beat himself up in front of his daughter, but it's the Peppa the Pig stuff.
That bit with Swerve something completely fine.
Yeah.
That is not going to scar his children whatsoever. But letting them watch Peppa Pig really will make them into arseholes 10 years down the line.
Danielson said he got backstage and his peers were congratulating him, and that's when he knew it. This was his favourite moment of his entire career, and he choked up a bit. And then he said, well, what's next? I need neck surgery. I need to go home. But I'm going to be a fighting champion, and I'm not going to go home yet. And he set up all his title defenses are now going to be retirement matches.
So that's what we were talking about, which is great. I think this is really, really strong. And I thought the way that he kind of led the crowd into thinking that he was going to retire as world champion, I thought he kind of led them on really well.
I never believed that. That would have been outrageous.
It would have been. But my point is more, I didn't believe it either. Yeah. But this crowd did, because there was a moment when they were like, oh no, he's going to do it. He's going to retire as champion. And then he went, but not today! And the crowd, way!
Well, as we know after being there on Sunday, it's the first time I've ever seen Danielson live. He makes you believe when you're in the room.
Magic, man.
So he issues an open challenge to anyone in the back because he's going to be a fighting champion. He needs a title match for All Out. And TNT champion Jack Perry appears on the Tron. He said he's going to retire the American Dragon, but it was a trap. Jack Perry's behind him. He attacks Danielson from behind, and he poses over Danielson with both belts. That's our match for All Out, and the show ended.
So there's some, kayfabe issues within this of just like, did you prepare this video package for hoping that he would offer an open challenge there, Jack? Was that your plan? That aside,
he's got one on standby.
He's just overdubs with names. I will retire you, Jon Moxley.
I will fight you at Denver Broncos.
However, I think this is a fairly good. I think this is a good choice actually for Jack Perry. It doesn't need to be a big name out now. The match is happening in 2 weeks. So rather than burn one of your potentially big Danielson title matches, do this one where you only need to do 2 weeks build for it. So that's part one of why I think this is a good move. Part two is I think this will then play into Arthur Ashe, because Darby Allin was mentioned within that Jack Perry promo of, I buried Darby Allin. And when he hit the sliding knee, the commentary were like, just as he did to Darby Allin. So this can set up a Darby Allin returner All Out, which furthers Danielson and Darby for Arthur Ashe, which can then potentially spin off back into Jack and Darby. So I think there's actually a lot of positives that can come out of this.
I'll add, where is All Out?
In Chicago. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to get a lot of heat, isn't he?
Well, you'd hope. I think that's the gamble. I would take that gamble. That you would hope that the Chicago crowd will hate him for Crimea River, right? Like that's in the same way that they put the Acclaimed on at Wembley, with the gamble that they'll be just as over here as they were last year.
There's also, I don't think this will be the main event.
No.
I think Swerve and Hangman might main event.
That had been the report they were going to be the main event.
Okay,
they were going to be the main event of the show.
So it makes total sense to me. I totally get why they're doing it. I am not excited by it, though, is my take.
I think that's fine. Like for me, the reasons I laid out there are less about, I think it's the right time for Jack, or I think it'll be a really good match. Not that I think it will be a good match. My reasons are more, I can see probably where this is being plotted as and the reasons as to why to do it, but it doesn't light my fires of doing Danielson and Jack Perry.
Overall, I gave this episode 74%. I appreciated the new direction for a lot of people. It did feel like a new season, but then there was a rough 45 minutes there, and some of the things I'm just not as excited about as I should be. Chiefly Moxley's who owns AEW and Danielson versus Perry.
Yeah, I think that rough 45 minutes is totally fair, although I think I enjoyed the finish of the match more than you did. So for me, it really is just like from Monet up until the Danielson thing, because the Ricochet match was just fine. Actually, I would just say from Monet up until the Ricochet match, because I did enjoy the match.
I enjoyed the match.
It wasn't a bad match. No. But I think there was a bit of a stretch there where I'm like, a lot of this doesn't feel like a well-produced show. But I'm more into the Moxley thing, and I think I'm probably more into the Danielson Jack Perry thing. And I at least like that this episode did feel like a series reset.
Well, let's get on with your Omega chats to close this show. Eternal Blue, Memberg for 38 months in a row. One of my favourite things about Ricochet in AEW is that his new theme is based on the X-Men 97 theme song. So therefore, he's a perfect wrestler.
Is it now?
I didn't pick that.
Neither, and I was there live when it was first played.
Jade Cargill's one is.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's not exactly. Also, you don't need to say 97. It's the original thing.
Yeah.
Okay. It is a reproduced version of it.
Oh, we'll go back and check that out. Johnny All-In says, just a quick one to say thank you to all the crew for taking the time to take pictures with myself and my son at Box Park on Sunday. Didn't want to take up too much of your time, so I didn't stop to chat. Then I walked away annoyed with myself for not chatting. Well, everyone else chatted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chatty people. But thanks for coming over to meet us as well.
It was so lovely to meet everyone over the weekend. Thank you to everyone who came to say hello.
Homer Star says, still recovering from All In. I was actually stood near you two at the Box Park, but there was a lot of people with you, so I was too nervous to say hi. At least I got a too sweet from Mega Ran. You always feel comfortable coming to say hi to us, unless we're in the toilet. Don't do that.
That'll be the line that I would potentially draw. Mega Ran asked me for a selfie.
Did he?
Yeah.
He came over to me in the queue at for one of the drinks, and he was like, "Hi, I'm Mega Ran." I was like, "I know who you are. I've done a show with you." Eddie Luna 2 says, funny story to share. I'm having a barbecue with my mates for All In, and my friend waited until the main event to start venting about his breakup with his girlfriend of 2 years. Pick your time, friend. I didn't hear a single effing word until Brian won, and then I turned and said, okay, why did Cassie break up with you? I'm a bad friend, but he had 3.5 hours to start venting. Lol, am I a bad friend?
No, he should have started that during the Mercedes match.
Or just on the pre-show.
Yeah, you had 2 hours.
Maybe he's, maybe you could say he was awkward bringing it up, so he needed a few beers before he did. Yeah. But it's a long show. You don't need to wait for the last 45 minutes.
Or, if you got to that point, just wait until the show's finished.
P.S. Love you guys. P.S.S. We laughed about it afterwards with beer.
Lovely.
Well, that's good.
Good.
Hopefully your friend's okay. And Ashvinash Anathan has become a member.
Hey.
Thank you very much. Let's close that poll.
There's quite a few more chats we haven't done yet.
What? Where did these all come from?
Ben here says, I'm sorry this is off topic, but after hearing Luke talk about Final Fantasy VII, I need to know, are you a Tifa or an Aerith guy? I just barely prefer Tifa, but I love them both, especially after Remake and Rebirth made them way better characters than the OG.
I don't know any of those words.
I think I'm probably a Tifa guy. I think I would say so. I think Tifa particularly as well because in the original, if you do the one that almost like guarantees you're going to get a critical hit. If you equip that with one of her weapons, it's almost guaranteed because it's like 110% accuracy. So it's it's a guaranteed critical hit every time. So she's good to have in your party late doors. And it's hard to have Aerith in your party late doors. Obviously, spoilers. So I'll go with Tifa.
Cool. Anna J. O'Neill says, hi guys, we met at Box Park before All In. I just wanted to say thank you so much for being there for me during a difficult time in my life. Your videos helped me when I was at my lowest lows. Now I can proudly say I'm a trans woman. Love y'all. Jam that jam.
So lovely being able to speak with you. And yeah, glad that you're okay.
Yeah.
I think there was some...
there's some more up the top here.
There is. Raphael said, Mox said we may not be able to wrap our heads around what he's about to say, and boy was he right. I'm still in the confusion. I hope it's not Shane. I really don't want it to be Shane.
Yes, you do.
He doesn't wrestle good. Also, MJF's pain is sexy to Danny? Very weird show. Bobby G said, hey guys, happy you guys had a great time at All In. I'm thinking the Moxley build up to fight Bryan for the World Championship with the BCC feud against a faction built by Moxley and the first female member of the BCC.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Who do you put in?
Well, legit, Layla Hirsch was always like people's number one pick for it. Charles here said, the one thing that makes me confused about Will Ospreay's hesitancy to hit the Tiger Driver, he doesn't want to hurt his opponent. Sure, that's classy and noble, but he also hits people in the back of the head with his elbow.
There's kayfabe. It's a kayfabe limit. That's where he's drawn the line. It's more dangerous than the elbow to the back of the head.
Exactly. He's not dropping someone on their neck when he is hitting someone. He's just hitting them in it. Durgabers says...
I think Dr. Gerbs.
Oh, Dr. Gerbs, maybe? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely right. JCW, 25 years in the game. No love from the mainstream media, getting a weekly streaming deal and a coffee table book of ICP's wrestling career in honor of what would like to nominate the first match for JCW Volume 1 for the best worst matches. Whoop whoop, JCW, JCW, JCW. So that is Juggalo Championship Wrestling, which I did actually get to reference on the news the other day with Sid's passing, because he wrestled in Juggalo Championship after, like, when he made his sort of brief comeback after the injury, and he tagged with the Insane Clown Posse and stuff. So I was able to reference Juggalo Championship Wrestling in the news.
And just one more last one. Steve said, "I'd love for Perry's music to start with the CM Punk static." Love you guys. Wow. That's a genius idea.
Yeah.
But thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Our predictions have gone up for Bash in Berlin, but that's on the WrestleTalk main channel. So head over there to watch that, and also the WrestleTalk news from today, which has just more stuff in wrestling.
Do you want to sell it a bit more?
People know. People know it's high-quality stuff. And also high-quality stuff, patreon.com/WrestleTalk. You can get the brand new episode of WrestleTalk Extra, the first episode in our TNA series, chronicling Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle's feud from 06 to 08 now. That's patreon.com/WrestleTalk. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luco in DAD. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam. Just got to do the poll.
Got to do the poll.
Just got to end the poll. Hold on. Poll. 72% thumbs up. 23% thumbs in the middle.
I said 74.
Yeah.
I am.
You are in.
Oh my god.
With this audience right now. Just double checking as well. It's not our last Dynamite review together, is it?
I think next week.
Next week's will be our last one. Yeah. So next week will be our last Dynamite review together. Thanks everyone. Bye.